Can we convene the Bridges and Tunnels meeting? Neil. Can we go? The minutes are published in, any public comments? Any public speakers? Come on.
The birds fly. Full disclosure, I know Cedric from Port Authority. Knowing that this presentation is on the record, my name is Murray Bowden. I live in Hartsdale, New York. Neil, if you have a minute. You can't do both. No, you haven't heard this song before. This is a different one. I've been working with the chief engineer of Bridge and Tunnel, Mitch, you too. And they're changing the way they do business. They're looking at the lines on a road and the signs, and they're adapting them for the generation of people my age. They're doing things in a way that hasn't been done before. It's all 100% legal. It's being overseen by the traffic engineers who write that manual uniform traffic control devices. They get copies of everything. A number of them had the CC address right on there so that you could see it all. What's different about it is Bridge and Tunnel is actually changing those things that Metro North and Long Island Railroad have not been able to change yet. Which is to say, change is possible if you think about it differently. If Bridges and Tunnels can do it, so can Long Island Railroad and so can Metro North. They can correct the crossings. They can stop blowing the whistle on 125th Street, just as two simple ones. And the overlying one is, I'll leave that go. But my compliments to Bridges and Tunnels for being able to begin the process of changing things that will be copied by everybody else. It's been a pleasure to work with them. Things do change slowly, but they are changing. Cedric, you got a good organization here.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is John Caney. I'm the Executive Director of reInvent Albany. We're a statewide watchdog group that seeks more accountable and transparent state government, including big public authorities like the MTA, which is why I'm here today. We haven't appeared before this committee before, but we have worked with the MTA on issues like the transit funding lockbox, which we passed in Albany, and open data. I want to thank this board for your public service and for accepting a very important job, and want to emphasize that we understand that most, if not all of you, are volunteers, and you're asked to review very complex budgetary and policy information, mainly on your own. That said, you may be volunteers, but you also own the bridges and tunnels, and they're your responsibility, and that's why I'm here. I'm asking you to fulfill your responsibility to the public and the MTA by doing three things. First, get a full, specific, and public accounting of the costs of each component of the New York Crossings Initiative, which we all know was announced with great fanfare by Governor Cuomo in October 2016. Second, I'm here to ask you to vote to approve or disapprove the budget for each of those components of New York Crossing, rather than approving piecemeal contract amendments that mask the true costs of each of those components. And third, I'm asking you to publicly approve and have disclosed all MOUs with other agencies involving New York Crossings, including funding for Harbor Lights component. And that includes with ESD or the Power Authority. But we believe it's very important that those MOUs be public and that you, the board, have the final say over them. New York Crossings is the umbrella name for a wide range of expenditures on MTA bridges and tunnels centered around open road tolling, but also including seismic and flood measures and extensive and expensive decorative elements, including harbor lights, Art Deco towers at bridge and tunnel entrances, which are referred to as architectural enhancements in MTA documents, and wave designs on gantries. As many of you know, a recent article in Politico put the cost of these decorative elements at approximately $350 million to $500 million. Now, reInvent Albany, my group, has documented 8 contract amendments approved by this committee, approved by you, totaling about $43 million just for decorative towers or architectural enhancements. Additionally, and importantly, the Power Authority Board was told twice that the MTA would reimburse it for $216 million for the cost of harbor lights. That's later been refuted and rebutted by the governor's office, but that was an agreement and a hypothetical MOU that another major state authority publicly discussed in their own board meetings that we heard no discussion of by this committee or by the MTA board. So how much will these decorative Art Deco towers cost in total? How much will harbor lights cost? Nowhere has this committee approved specific budgets for the decorative towers, the harbor lights, the wave designs. These projects, each of which may cost more than $50 million. Each component, $50 million, or in the case of harbor lights, over $200 million. These are very, very high costs for decorative elements, and they should be specifically identified, discussed, and voted on by this board, by the owners of the bridges and tunnels, because you are the owners, and it is your responsibility to the public and to the MTA to know how much these very expensive components cost. This is public money, and this is public money that could go to the city's subways and buses. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Slacky. I'm here representing AAA Northeast, which serves a membership of over 5.2 million members in the region. And I'm here to talk about the Easy Pass charges that are charged to out-of-state drivers. Now, as you may know, and the issue has come up in the press recently, the MTA charges the cash rate to drivers who use Easy Passes that are issued by agencies from other states. And the differences are substantial. On the major crossings, it's $274, double that in the Verrazano. On the Henry Hudson, the difference itself is more than double. The cash rate is more than double the Easy Pass rate. And those charges add up to significant amounts of revenue. I mean, since this policy was instituted in July 2009, over 100 million times have out-of-state Easy Pass drivers crossed MTA facilities. And last year, by a conservative estimate, assuming that all those drivers are passenger vehicles on major crossings, that adds up to an extra $47 million in revenue. And we oppose this policy. We understand the need for revenue. We understand the need to maximize funding. But in our opinion, it's not worth undermining the integrity of the tolling system by gouging interstate drivers. And there's no justification for such a practice, in our opinion, except to take advantage of drivers who might be from out of state. And they're not just long-distance travelers, they're also daily commuters. Just to give one granular example from the U.S. Census, over 2,200 Brooklynites commute to Middlesex County, New Jersey. They likely are crossing an MTA facility. They are likely on the Jersey Turnpike, which also does not offer Easy Pass discounts to drivers from out of state. And the MTA spokespeople have said anyone can get an MTA Easy Pass no matter where you're from, and that's great, but it's ironic for a system that's premised on interoperability and convenience that you need to get multiple Easy Passes to maximize the benefit of the Easy Pass system. It doesn't make sense. And, you know, we support the move towards Easy Pass. We support open road tolling. We offer Easy Passes in our branches, so we support people having Easy Passes, and we recognize there's plenty of convenience to the system, but we don't agree that this is the right way to go about it. And you're not alone in this practice. Like I said, the Jersey Turnpike, the Thruway, agencies from Maryland to Maine do this, but that doesn't justify the practice. It only penalizes more drivers. Just to give one example from May 2017, which is in this this meeting materials, you have the other MTA, the Maryland Transportation Authority, 444,000 times did Bridges and Tunnels Easy Pass holders travel on Maryland facilities. Meanwhile, 47,000 Maryland Easy Pass holders traveled on Bridges and Tunnels facilities, and they're getting gouged in the other states. So the agencies are reaping the benefits. The drivers are suffering the consequences. I know if I ask you here to come vote this policy down today, that's certainly not realistic, but I think it would be a great time to take another look at this practice, take a look at the financial and legal ramifications of both having this practice and removing this policy. So that's all, and I thank you for the opportunity to present this before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Hearing none. We have the minutes in the book, the minutes for the June meeting. Any corrections, additions? Motion to approve? Second? Done. Approval of the committee work plan. Any changes to the work plan? No changes? Do I have to approve? Nothing, no. Report on operations, our new president.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. My first lesson is to turn on the microphone. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to have been appointed to this position as president of the MTA Bridges and Tunnels. I've only been on the job for 2 weeks, but clearly I'm no stranger to the organization. I was the director of Tunnels and Bridges at the Port Authority, and have worked many years collaborating with this fine staff here. In that context, I'm pleased to announce that the Verrazanos Bridge had a successful go-live, open road cashless tolling on July 8th, joining the RFK, Henry Hudson Cross Bay, and Marine Parkway bridges, as well as the Heel Carry and Queens Midtown tunnels. In conjunction with the Verrazanos successful ORT go-live, our Staten Island-bound customers now enjoy the full benefits of the speedier trip that cashless tolling offers. Staying with the Verrazano, we're also pleased to report that on the 22nd of June, we began operating the eastbound HOV lane, which allows for a seamless trip across Staten Island to the Heel Carry Tunnel into Manhattan. This fall, we look forward to implementing ORT tolling at the Bronx Whitestone and Throgs Neck bridges, which will complete the transformation to a fully cashless toll collection system at all MTA crossings. I am excited about the opportunity to work with the MTA staff and build upon recent agency successes and to advance efforts that enhance the operating improvement. Similarly, I look forward to working with this committee and the MTA Board, always focused on our shared goal to serve our customers. Thank you, and I will now ask Dan DiCrescenzo to present the report on operations.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The report on operations begins on page 19. Traffic was lower in May with 26.7 million crossings as compared to 27 million crossings in May 2016. This represents a 1.4% decrease. Easy Pass volume increased by 2.1% in May as compared to the same month in 2016, and crossings using cash and other payment methods declined by 22.3% for the same period. Passenger car travel declined by 1.6%, and other vehicle travel increased by 1.4% from May of 2016. Preliminary monthly traffic figures for June 2017 is 0.6% less than the same period last year. The Father's Day holiday weekend, Friday through Sunday, saw 2 million less vehicles traveling through our facilities, representing a 6.3% decrease from the 2016 Father's Day holiday weekend. Poor weekend weather contributed to the decline. As President Fulton mentioned, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge started cashless tolling on July 8th. This ends the report on operations.
Safety.
The report on safety starts on page 32 and highlights our most important lagging and leading indicators shown on top and bottom of the tables. The report represents a 12-month rolling average that compare year-over-year performance for key safety indicators. The customer collision rate for the most recent 12-month ending May 2017 was 8.16, an increase from the 8.0 rate for the same period ending April 2017, and the 6.63 rate for the same period ending May 2016. The 12-month average rate for injury collisions decreased to 1.06 from May 2017 from 1.09 in April 2017 and is higher than the rate of 0.97 rate for the 12 months ending May 2016. As per the committee's request, additional information has been provided for your review. The first chart is a year-over-year comparison of monthly collision rates for all B&T facilities. While the collision rates have increased in every month on a year-over-year basis, collisions with injuries are tracking closer to the pattern of the previous 12 months. The second chart provides year-over-year changes of collision rates by facility and presents a similar picture. There are year-over-year increases in the 12-month average total collision rate at every facility, but the collisions with injury rates are similar for major facilities with the exception of the tunnels. The data indicates that, in general, B&T safety performance is characterized by a significant increase in lower speed collisions that are less likely to result in injuries. B&T is making fundamental changes to its facility operations and structures that will improve its safety performance and is being challenged to safely manage the implementation of these changes. B&T uses a data-driven approach to improve its safety performance through traffic pattern changes and targeted enforcement efforts. Recognizing that customer safety performance improvement is necessary, Bridges and Tunnels has increased the focus of its customer safety process by having weekly meetings to look at all collisions in addition to monthly and quarterly reviews and identify emerging safety challenges and quickly develop and implement solutions. To ensure that we are using the most current analysis and customer safety practices, Bridges and Tunnels is further bolstering this process by engaging the services of Texas A&M Transportation Institute to apply their holistic expertise and national and international perspective to improve B&T's customer safety performance. In the interim, we have taken several actions at our most accident-prone locations to improve customer safety and to allow our customers to transition to an environment without toll booths, and I will discuss several of these now. The Hugh L. Carey Tunnel has new pavement and striping in Brooklyn that has reduced driver confusion and enabled the reduction of delineators. The Brooklyn-bound Verrazano-Narrows Bridge roadways have added roadway markings and new striping to better direct drivers towards the BQE or Bell Parkway exits, to reduce collisions at merge points and traffic backups from sudden merges that can result in rear-end collisions. The RFK Bridge Queens onbound now has 3 dedicated lanes for Bronx and 2 lanes for Manhattan. In addition, the onbound Bronx has 2 dedicated right lanes for Manhattan exit only and 2 dedicated left lanes for Queens. These improvements help reduce sudden lane changes that can result in sideswipe collisions. The Bronx Whitestone Bridge southbound Queens approach was modified with delineators to better separate traffic exiting for the Whitestone Expressway or the Cross Island Parkway, reducing merge collisions and traffic backups from sudden merges that can result in rear-end collisions. Also, the southbound traffic pattern on the Bronx side of the facility was modified for smoother traffic flow from the toll plaza to bridge traffic lanes. While very early results are promising, it is far too soon to identify a positive trend resulting from these enhancements. I will now turn the discussion to Danny DiCrescenzo, who will provide us detail on enforcement initiatives.
Thank you, Eric. As Eric mentioned, MTA Bridges and Tunnels uses collision data to direct its enforcement efforts. These efforts are specifically geared toward unsafe driver behaviors, which are the cause of many of these collisions. For the month of May, 1,830 summonses were issued for disobeyed traffic control device as compared to 709 in May of 2016. This represents a 158% increase. Bridges and Tunnels issued 654 speeding summonses in May 2017 as compared to 461 in May 2016, which represents a 41.9% increase. B&T issued 352 summonses in May for cell phone and/or electronic device use, from 188 issued in May of 2016, or an 87% increase. Through year-to-date, May 2017, as compared with the same period last year, there has been a 41% increase in total bridge and tunnel summonses issued, 13,879 in 2016 versus 19,569 in 2017, and an 18.8% increase in bridge and tunnel arrests, 181 May year-to-date in 2016 versus 215 May year-to-date 2017. Under the direction of President Fulton, Bridges and Tunnels is performing an in-depth analysis of its enforcement personnel deployments and safety plans to ensure that we are using resources as effectively as possible. Based on forecasted weather conditions, historical traffic data and collision data, special events, and other factors, deployment recommendations by facility, location, day of the week, time of day are being developed to more effectively target areas where enforcement actions will have the greatest positive impact on customer safety. The last committee meeting, there was a request on following too close summonses based on the rear-end collision data that we provided. So as following too close summonses is indicative of this unsafe driver behavior, we also looked at summonses issued for careless and negligent operation of a motor vehicle, which we issue on bridges and tunnels, and in addition to the summons that I previously mentioned. So following too close summonses for year-to-date, we issued 54 summonses versus 41 last year, and the careless and negligent operation of a motor vehicle, we issued 89 summonses versus 64 last year. 54 summonses for following too close.
Mr. Zuckerman.
I can give you, I knew this, I knew when I looked at the statistics that I was going to get questions, so.
To be honest, I'm not going to ask a question this month, to tell you the truth. I may make a statement, though. So, why don't you finish, sir?
Okay. To give you a little more insight on the following too close summons and the careless and the negligent operation of a motor vehicle, a lot of these summons are after the fact of an accident, and it has to be properly articulated in court. So when you're looking at the summons for Traffic Violations Bureau, we actually have to cross out that an officer actually observed the violation. So more so we get these people for speeding or unsafe lane changes rather than the following too close. So we're getting them, but we're getting them hopefully prior to an accident, where these summons are mostly issued after a collision. And it's based on the officer's assessment of the accident and indicators in his interview to the motorist.
Thank you for calling on me, Mr. Chair, without actually raising my hand. Mr. Fulton, welcome to this role in this body. We look forward to your leadership and your support. I'm not going to ask a question this month. I'm going to make a statement, though. I did, as my one has been the last several months, is actually the one-year anniversary of me being on this committee. And to your two predecessors and now yourself, sir, I will raise this issue. We now have a 41% increase in collisions per million vehicles since I started, the data I have available since November 15. It was 38% last time, and now we have a 3% increase. Traffic is actually down over the period at the same time. So I heard all the right things, Mr. Onis. I appreciate the things you're doing. There are the right things, but we cannot let this stand. We must, either the number of summonses must go up, the signage must, we must be relentless in fixing this problem, because it is, unfortunately, an inexorable trend. Every single month it gets worse. And every single month I say the same thing for now 12 months. And it gets worse every single month. I don't even see one down month. And so we must do something about this. We cannot accept this any longer. Mr. Fulton, I personally will look to this one issue for your performance. I'll be a single issue voter, if you will, in terms of topics. This is the issue. And to be honest, sir, the notion that our injury collisions are not nearly as bad to me as a feint. We should focus on the metric that we have in front of us, because while I may not be injured, it causes a significant amount of problems for the drivers and those around them if they have any accident. So please, sir, please fix this problem.
If I might, thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners. This is an issue of highest priority. Safety of our traveling public is of the highest regard. My entire professional career, it's been at the top of the list. And so one of the things we've done here is we are engaging an entity, as Eric reported, to help us get a better look at the optic. The data counts, the analysis counts, but you're right, the relentless pursuit is the action area that we would continue with. I'm convinced there's no one single silver bullet in this area right here. It's lots of effort, lots of activity, and of course, your support. Thank you.
Welcome. You got Neil on a good day, well, let alone some of the other ones. But having said that, and we all appreciate the effort, obviously. As a frequent user of the Throgs Neck, which is what I use mainly on the weekends, you can see what happens there easily. Now, that doesn't mean it's all reflected in whatever is happening, but you know, an observer can see there are two choke points for at least where I'm driving. One is getting on the bridge off the Cross Island, okay, which for whatever reason, and I have yet to figure out why, but obviously when there's two lanes that merge off the Cross Island into the Throgs Neck, and they are now backing up onto the Cross Island. So what is happening is that people are going 55, 60, and all of a sudden it stops because people are going much slower, going up the ramp, and then getting onto the Throgs Neck, which is an issue. I don't know whether it's reflected in our numbers or be reflected in, you know, city DOT or state DOT because it's on the Cross Island itself, but it obviously is a factor here. The second factor, of course, is the bridge itself, which, as you know, goes up and then goes down, okay? And you can see, even on a Saturday morning, when the trucks are going 55, 60 miles an hour on the bridge, doesn't matter what the speed limit is, we all know that's what they're doing, and then come around the corner and are going down, and everybody stops because now everybody's got to figure out which lane to get into because of Easy Pass now. Everybody goes crazy, and if you're not paying attention, you're into one of Neil's accidents in that regard, and so now hopefully that will be reflected better in when we get open road tolling at the Throgs Neck. We would hope the issue there is going to be speed enforcement coming down the hill, because now the trucker is going to know, oh, now I don't have to stop anymore, okay? And he's going to want to get off that bridge, come down that hill, go 60, and going down the hill, he's not doing 60, he's doing 75, because now there's no place for him to, no reason for him to stop. So in the past, where the gate may have caused people to slow down, the lack of the gate may actually cause people to speed up, because now we've eliminated the reason for that. So we're going to have to, and I'm sure that's not just reflected at the Throgs Neck, although it's exacerbated at the Throgs Neck because you have the decline as you get to the area where the toll booths or where the gantry will be, somewhere there in that regard. So, you know, those are going to have to be two places we look at in this context to see what happens. But, you know, just from an observer, I can see, I saw it Saturday morning, you know, what goes through there is of great concern if you're not paying attention. And lots of people, unfortunately, as we know from the numbers, don't pay attention. And that is a problem that somewhat we can control and somewhat we have to do a better job in making them control it.
Thank you. Mr. Fulton, welcome to the MTA. Oh, you've been here. Welcome to the committee. I'm not here that often, but I did have I also don't travel on the bridges and tunnels all that much, but I am on them. I compliment you on what was done on the Whitestone. I was just over that only a week or two ago, and I think that the extra signage and the division of the lanes between the Cross Island and the Whitestone Expressway is a big help to keep people from changing lanes. However, on the Queens Midtown Tunnel, if you're Queens bound, something was done which is going to create accidents if it hasn't already. There's no signs on the Manhattan side telling you that if you want to get off in the exits in Long Island City, 2 exits right next to each other, Borden Avenue, 21st Street, you better be in the right lane of the tube, otherwise you're on the expressway. So someone has to put signs up. Someone should also talk to the Port Authority about. The Port Authority does the same thing through the Lincoln Tunnel, but I've complained about that and gotten nowhere. About not telling people on the other side of the tunnel that you better be in a certain lane in the tunnel in order to get to exit to a street you want to go to. So there's, in other words, there is now the left lane of the tunnel. You cannot exit at 21st Street and Borden Avenue. I could see why. You don't want people jumping in front of each other. But on the other hand, if you don't tell people on the other side, you're going to get a very bad effect on the Queen. You probably already do on the Queen side. So I appreciate if someone take a look at that, whether you want to remove some, allow people to move from one side to the other, or tell people on the other side that you have to be in the right lane. I don't know how, because of the entrances, if you take a look at the entrances on the Manhattan side, I don't think they work that well either. This is in a way, I regard this as a microcosm of some of the other problems we probably have around the city, because you have a lot of tight curves into entrances into a tunnel where you only could get into one lane of the tunnel. There isn't much of a plaza for people to move from one lane to the other. So if we're going to do this thing, we're going to restrict what you can do when you get on the other side of a crossing. I think we're going to need to put up extra signage around the city to tell people, if you're going to this location on the other side of one of our crossings, you better be prepared to in this lane. That'll reduce the crossovers. So that's my observation for all it's worth. Thank you.
We thank you for that observation. We'll have our traffic engineers go out there today and take a look at it and come back with some recommendations. Thank you.
Let me now ask you one question, then make 2 suggestions. Is it legal to cross from one lane to another lane while traversing any of the bridges or tunnels except in an emergency?
Danny?
If it's a dotted line, you can cross. If it's a double solid line, you cannot cross. If it's a solid line signed, meaning solid line do not cross, you have to stay in the lane.
Okay. Assuming for the sake of argument that I am not assaulted for violating MUTCD by this suggestion, why do we not require that there be double lines on all of the bridges and tunnels so that we have channeling of traffic coming across, number 1. Number 2, the Scots have found a way of dealing with this. At the beginning of every bridge and every tunnel, there is a sign with a flashing fuchsia bulb of some sort that says, crossing a line is a £100 ticket. Right in the beginning, you're warned. Number 3, there's also a sign that says, same fuchsia lights, following too closely is a £100 ticket. Look at it, please. You cannot possibly turn a blind eye to the continually increasing statistics of accidents. It's not fair to the public. It's not fair to the drivers. All right?
Just 2 pieces of data I'd like to start seeing going forward. Thank you for the crossing by crossing annual data. I'd like to suggest 2 more things, given the intensity by which this board wants, or this committee wants to look at this. 1, can we have the crossing data by month, please? Not on a 12-month comparison, because I think we'd like to see it improving, or whether it's improving. And the second, sir, you were talking about summonses. If that's a good, I don't know if that's a lagging or a leading indicator, but let's just call it an indicator nonetheless. It'd be great if we could track that in our monthly books for the time being, until such time as we don't need to hear me say the same thing over and over again.
A traffic officer in Manhattan will issue 10 times the number of summonses in a single hour than you will have issued for crossing lanes and having this kind of stuff. Those numbers don't match. I'm sorry. All right. Anybody else? I'm sorry. Easy pass.
You want to? We still have one more section
have
of the
you?
safety report.
Go ahead.
So, The 12-month average employee lost time injury rate increased from 7.6 injuries per 200,000 work hours in April 2017 to 7.9 in May 17, and is higher than the rate of 5.6 for the 12 months ending May 2016. We are currently reviewing incidents to identify trends as we transition from toll plaza environment to ORT, as 7 out of 9 facilities are currently ORT. Done.
The May Easy Pass report begins on page 36. PNT's Easy Pass market share continues to trend upwards, and it is at 88.9% in May, which is the highest share ever and 3.1 percentage points higher than the year before. We had 4 facilities above 95% on an average weekday. That's the Marine Parkway, Henry Hudson Bridges, and the 2 tunnels. Over 32,000 Easy Pass accounts were opened in May, which is a 36% increase from the previous year. Unless there are any questions, I'll move on to the financial report.
The issue that was raised by the gentleman from AAA is something we have talked about here many times. Every time we have toll increases, we talk about the issue. And I guess from a fairness standpoint, assuming there is a fairness standpoint, everybody should do the same thing. All the tolling agencies should have the same rules relating to in-state and out-of-state Easy Pass accounts. Because you don't want, I understand the issue of requiring somebody to get a New York Easy Pass. That is only appropriate if they're coming into and out of New York on a frequent basis. If they're traveling on vacation, I guess it's not such a, you're not going to call up Easy Pass and please send me an Easy Pass for a week or whatever it is. So in that context, assuming everybody else did the same thing, I think we would all be supportive of, or at least I would, of changing the rules so that every Easy Pass rider pays the Easy Pass rate. But I would not want to do that just by us, because New Yorkers are being penalized in other places to the same degree. So I know AAA has written to the Secretary of Transportation. Perhaps she will encourage, in whatever way she can, all the tolling agencies and the Easy Pass sector to do the same. If we get to that point, I think we should reevaluate our situation. But as I said, I think either everybody does it together or you're going to end up in this hodgepodge of rules. And I don't think we should penalize ourselves for something that our riders are being penalized for someplace else. So that would be my position on the matter.
Just add a footnote. There was a gap in the report from the AAA, and the gap was a failure to acknowledge that it is also the responsibility of other states where people do not pay the Easy Pass or bridge toll to provide for a penalty for their failure to adhere. Until such time as there is uniformity on that, I would vote against it with all respect.
I would agree. I mean, reciprocity on implementation of or penalization of people who don't pay is another integral part. And I think we had that discussion with Connecticut a couple of years ago until Connecticut changed their rules. But, all three, I would agree with you, Chuck, those three issues are intertwined. And if the federal government can convince everybody to have the same rules, then I think we should go along with whatever they are. Until then, we should continue to charge those out-of-staters because New Yorkers are being charged that rate in other places also. So I would agree.
Okay. I agree with Commissioner Pally, and I want to just say that it's my recollection that MTA, actually New York State, both the Thruway Authority and MTA, did in fact cross-honor that discount until the New Jersey Turnpike Authority rescinded their discount in 2011. And then it was at that point that I think New York State revisited its discount policy. So I certainly agree with Commissioner Pally about either it being uniform across all the agencies or not. But I think as we engage, or you all engage with others in other states with regards to the compact agreements or the MOUs for easy pass toll violations, that this is a good opportunity to revisit this policy and see, because I do think that it is important to continue to encourage easy pass use, but I don't think that the MTA should be the only agency to continue to honor out of state if it's not being done by not just New Jersey, but by Connecticut, by Maryland, by Delaware, etc. So I do think this is an opportunity, as these conversations are ongoing about how to address violations in other states, revisiting this and see if there could be a shared agreement. And welcome, Mr. Fulton.
Listening to all of this and agreeing with my fellow commissioners, when on the MTA's website or elsewhere, when we post the cash rates versus Easy Pass rates, is there a little asterisk that says New York issued Easy Pass rates only? Is there something that lets people know that if it's a Illinois issued Easy Pass, they will pay?
Yes, it does.
It does say that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Financial report.
The financial report for May begins on page 42. Year-to-date toll revenue in May was $746.7 million, which is 1.1% or $8.2 million below budget, primarily due to a greater number of lower tolled Easy Pass transactions compared to higher tolled cash and tolls by mail transactions than originally forecasted. Traffic year-to-date in May was 121.7 million crossings, which was 0.6% better than budget. Report on expenses. Our total expenses were $187.2 million through May, which is about $14.8 million or 7.3% lower than budget. The labor costs were 7.2% less than budget, or $8.7 million, due primarily to vacancies. Non-labor costs through May were 7.5%, or $6.1 million, lower than budget, primarily due to the timing of maintenance and other operating contracts. Our support to mass transit was more than $453 million in May, which is $25.4 million, or 5.9% better than planned. This concludes the financial report.
Right.
I want to make a comment on the Harbor Lights program, and while it's seemingly been addressed in the press, at least, that the MTA is not responsible for the cost, and that acknowledgement has been made by the governor with regards to the New York Power Authority and ESC. I think it has not been resolved within this committee, our involvement. Presumably, B&T has to sign off on the design of the Harbor Lights project, right?
Joe? Well, we have...
I guess the answer is no.
Is the answer no? I mean, this is work that's being done on our bridge and tunnel facilities.
Why don't we do this? Yeah. If you can come back with a report on that, what we do and how, that would be
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure we have the time. No, you certainly agree. I'm not sure we have the time for a full report. I don't want to ask the staff to prepare a full report. Just what I'm getting at is this committee certainly should be learning about this project, whether or not we're paying for it, because it is on our facilities, and not learning about it through the press. And when an MOU is signed, if it's not been signed already, I certainly agree with the comment that was made during public testimony that we should see that MOU, and it should be made available to the public. Because again, these are our facilities, and while it's welcome news that we are not paying for this project, we should understand the scope of the work that's being done.
Have any trains that run across any of our bridges? No. Then will you explain to me on page 52 on the definition of overtime, why under programmatic routine maintenance we have expenditures in overtime for railroad tie replacements, Sperry rail testing, running board replacements, and the like?
I think those are all standard definitions for the MTA that we have.
But
that we're
they don't
carrying.
apply to bridges.
They do not apply to bridges
and
and
that's
tunnels.
the point I'm trying to make. Just because this is Joe Loda's theme across the board, just because you did it yesterday doesn't mean it's right for today. Please, edit it, okay?
Sure.
All right. Is that the end of the financial report? Procurements.
Capital program.
The report on the capital program begins on page 56. In June, there were 21 commitments made in the amount of $37.8 million. This compares to a monthly plan calling for 6 commitments with a value of $7.4 million. Year-to-date, 119 commitments totaling $432 million have been made, which is 82% of our $527.7 million annual commitment plan. This compares to a planned cumulative year-to-date amount of 63 commitments with a value of $359.2 million. There were no project completions this month. Year-to-date, there were 7 completions totaling $400 million. This compares to a planned 5 completions totaling $124.3 million. The better-than-planned completions are primarily due to major completions at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, including the upper-level suspended span deck replacement project, which was substantially completed several months ahead of schedule. There were 12 task-level closeouts in June, totaling $25.6 million. Year-to-date, there have been 58 task-level closeouts, totaling $114.3 million. Unless there are any questions, that concludes the report.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Gore. Procurements start on page 74. There are no ratifications. There is one non-competitive agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation. B&T is seeking approval to enter into an agreement, MOU, with the New York State Department of Transportation for the reconstruction and maintenance of Route RC connecting the southbound Bruckner Expressway with the Bronx approach to the RFK. The Bronx approach to the RF Kennedy Bridge. There are 4 competitive procurement actions this month in the amount of $13.8 million. There's an amendment to a personal service contract totaling $2 million. Personal service contracts with Parsons Brinckerhoff and with AECOM USA Incorp. for additional services in the amount of $2 million to provide environmental review for future possible changes in toll policy at B&T facilities. Finally, there are 3 public work modifications totaling $11.8 million. Contract number RK65A with ELSO Contracting Corporation in the amount of $8.1 million for additional civil, structural, and electrical infrastructure construction work. Contract number VN80B with Tudor Perini Corporation in the amount of $3.26 million for milling of the Staten Island Approach, removal and replacement of the lower roadway finger joints, and removal and replacement of the lower roadway bearings at the Brooklyn Tower. And finally, contract number QMM 346 with Tucson Construction in the amount of $421,000 for additional work to include labor, material, and equipment necessary to provide masonry work to the Manhattan Entrance Plaza wall and to power wash the Queens Porter of the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Unless there are any questions, these procurements are described in detail in the enclosed staff summary. Thank you.
Just one comment and one question. And with acknowledgement and thanks to the staff for answering many of the questions that I had already asked. With regards to the NISDOT ramp, I just want to comment that it would be wonderful if NISDOT considered using some of the deck panels from the old TZB, as many other authorities and agencies are seeking those panels. And I know that's a decision to be made by NISDOT, but it would be wonderful to be able to save the MTA some resources if there was a right fit from some of those old deck panels on the TZB to be repurposed. And then with regards to the AECOM contract, procurement, I still have one outstanding question, and that is in regards to this study looking at toll policy proposals. It seems a bit premature to me to be awarding such a study, a contract for a study, 18 months prior to the 2019 fare toll anticipated increases and discussion, particularly when there's so many variables right now that are going to be changing in the next 18 months with regards to open road tolling. So I'm just curious as to why we are awarding this contract for this study of different toll scenarios and how they might impact toll policy at this juncture, as opposed to waiting perhaps some point next year till open road tolling is fully implemented, which we know will happen at the end of this year across all facilities, but then any other variables that would impact such a study, increase or decrease in vehicular traffic across the crossings, a change in the accident rate, which we hope to see, etc.
We're not awarding the contract now. This contract was awarded in August of 2014 for a 5-year period. We're coming back to the board to add money to the contract because of all the toll policy changes we have made and had to study under the environmental law. We've run out of money. Because it's an as-needed contract, we are able to proceed expeditiously when a new toll policy is we're asked to review it by the board or by headquarters or what we're looking to do ourselves. So we need to have the money available so that we can proceed expeditiously to issue a work order. The one toll policy change we know we will have in the contract term is the, or at least we expect to have, is the anticipated 2019 toll increase. But there could be other issues that arise. You know, for example, we studied the Verrazano rebate, and when there have been changes to the rebate policy, we've had to go back and look at them again. This is an as-needed contract. If we don't use the money, we get to keep the money.
Can I, well, since we're clearly going to have a 2018 discussion of 2019 tolls, okay, that's clear, okay, whether we do them or not is a different context, but we're clearly going to have a discussion. I think it would, based upon conversations many of us have had before, I would ask that we incorporate two different issues relating to the review. One would be time of day issues relating to incentives to provide especially commercial traffic, as we're doing now, not just on an emergency basis, but in a longer-term basis to try and convince commercial traffic to operate at non-peak hours. And the way I assume you do that is you give them a toll. I was going to use the word rebate. I'll instead use the word, no, I was going to use the word penalty. You know, to charge more at different times of the day. You and I had that conversation already. I think that's an important aspect of this, and maybe we incorporate it beyond just commercial traffic to also vehicular traffic in some fashion. I think it's an issue that has come to fruition, can easily now be done with open roll tolling. If it wasn't easy to do before, it's clearly easy to do now. That doesn't make it the right thing to do, but it should be easier to implement if this board wants to implement it. And I think that would be an important aspect of that. And the other thing I would look at is, would there be, if we do get to the point where all of the different agencies come to an agreement on Easy Pass or ORT usage fees, what would happen from an environmental standpoint, if anything, if we did decide not to charge out-of-state or non-New York State Easy Pass holders with the regular Easy Pass fee? I think it's something we should look at. That doesn't mean we're going to do it, but if we don't look at it, we can't do it or not do it. This board can't make an informed decision. So I would ask that those, in some fashion, those two issues be reviewed if we get to the point of continuing the contract.
Will do.
Thank you.
Page 82 of the book refers to ACOM and makes the point that in May of 2016, the chairman and council both approved going ahead with a contract notwithstanding a significant adverse incident, and states that there was nothing since that time. That is not accurate. In November of 2016, ACOM joined with Bechtel to pay a $125 million fine in connection with charges by the Department of Energy that they had charged work for materials and work that didn't meet standard. I'll hand it to the chairman. I would suggest you update your records concerning ACOM. We do not yet have a motion to approve. Second, all those in favor? Contrary minded, abstention, done. I think that's it. On the motion to adjourn, all those in favor? Okay.